All right, well, good morning, everybody. If you're just popping in, we're going to start the Inside Star Citizen Year in Review reaction. Before we do, I guess this video is sponsored by Green Chef. So use my link or go to greenchef.com and use code POGSALTY599 to get $5.99 per meal on your first box, and your first box ships for free. Thank you to everybody who's participated so far. It's US only, so I figured I'd try to put this on a YouTube video and see if anybody engaged with it, because everybody who watches my stream early in the morning is from like the UK, Germany, Australia, so it didn't really work out so well. So if you guys want to support me and try some kind of nutritious, they have keto, paleo, and vegan options, you can check that out. It's from HelloFresh, but it's like their kind of more specialized meals, and they use some organic stuff, and it's pretty cool. It was really good. We did a cooking stream yesterday. But with that said, I want to get that out of the way because you'll see it on screen for a moment during the reaction, and then I'll put it away. All right? So let's get into Inside Star Citizen Year in Review. Let me take
Hello,
that off.
everyone. Welcome to Inside Star
put
Citizen.
Myself back
I'm
on.
Jared Huckabee,
There we go.
and this is it. It's the end of the year. The much-anticipated Alpha 3.18 is being hammered away on by developers and citizen testers alike, and it's that time where we look back and reflect on many of the more memorable events and additions to the Star Citizen experience in a special episode we like to call the Star Citizen Year in Review 2022. Because sometimes you just call a thing what it is. Let's get to it.
Okay.
We'll start things off with some of the big ticket feature items, and perhaps none were bigger than the server cap increase, which saw the persistent universe population increase from 50 to 100, paving the way for things like Siege of Orison, changing the dynamic for events like Jumptown, and as you can see here, the collective re-entry of 100 simultaneous spacecraft, and the loudest I've ever heard the VFX team giggle. And let me tell you, they're gigglers. Player
Before we move on to the next one, I do want to talk about this a little bit. I talked about it at the beginning of my stream. I see a lot of streamers, YouTubers, and stuff saying this year sucked. And in a lot of ways, this year sucked. From a standpoint of motivation to continue to play the game regularly, this game was a bad year, right? But to argue there were not many tangible updates or anything like that, that was in 3.17 too. That was a huge update. That's a big, big change. It's not, you know, when we had 25 player servers, you almost never saw anybody. When you had 50 player servers, you very rarely saw people. And now you see people a little bit more often. At landing zones, out in the world, you definitely are coming across more people. It's a nice, nice touch. And when things like PES, when things like meshing come in, it's going to be even more of an effect on the world. So I think that's, you know, very tangible, very good progress. And this next thing I think is a very good addition to the game as well, with some unfortunate results.
Refueling also made its debut in 2022, enabling the peer-to-peer profession that allows for a new way to help your fellow citizens and make a buck along the way. An important step ahead for the upcoming inclusion of the Pyro system, where gas stations will be few and far between in the wide open and desolate wastes, where anarchy reigns and everyone must fend for themselves. It's basically Los Angeles on Black Friday. In addition to refueling...
So yeah, refueling, the UI implementation, amazing. The act of doing it, very, very good. The need to do it doesn't exist. And the thing for me is like they want to argue that it's a Pyro thing. Like, oh yeah, we did this because it's really needed in Pyro. And I don't know. I feel like in a game where, you know, the stand system is quite built out, I feel like there should be more of a need in Stanton than there is right now. So I would say that that was a really good addition to the game, but quite disappointing to the fact that it is not really usable because of its usefulness in a later patch, and then hearing more about rest stops and things like that in Pyro makes it seem like they might not even be that useful there. So, and they're also just gonna, you put yourself out there and say, "Hey, I'm doing refueling." You're just gonna get pirated and stuff. Now it's pretty silly at the moment, but I do not want to ignore how clean that implementation was and how kind of well done that experience is. It just I talked about it earlier, the ability to create your own fuel and sort of mine the way you see this like quantanium rock here, kind of finding a pocket of gas and gathering that and creating your own fuel and stuff was kind of how I always dreamed that would be. And then selling it to players, selling it to stations, selling it, like that kind of stuff that's how I expected that loop. And I think that that's how you can kind of make the fuel slash refueling gameplay more viable in systems that have more rest stops is the need to supply those rest stops with fuel, right? So refueling the stations is probably where this needs to have gone in the first place instead of refueling each other. And that would have been a really nice touch. But that will be a bit of a theme today because 100 players and refueling are really cool additions to the game, but until you add the foundation for those gameplay ideas to like stand on, there's really no point in them, right? If you're just making money and there's no like reason why, it's kind of stupid. So refueling feels like not a tangible update because you can't really use it. It's kind of sad, but I don't want to ignore just how good of an implementation that was, and really like how awesome that EU PU team did because that was really good. These, on the other hand, not a fan of these.
The arrival of mining gadgets brought another refinement to that profession, providing new and improved means for making your fortunes out in the verse, and then coming back to liquidate that and almost everything else with the new selling mechanic, allowing players to finally clear out much of what filled their inventories for profit.
Finally clearing out your inventory is the most painful, ridiculous thing of all time. Selling, guys, CIG, you should not even be calling this a feature. Yes, I can take something from my inventory and sell it to an NPC station. You would have to create a script to do this correctly. There are basic features that should be involved in this for you to tout that you added this to the game. This is the exact opposite of my feelings around refueling. That was an implementation that is usable, but not useful. This is an implementation that is very useful, but not usable. Right? It's not usable. It is not a usable feature because I have to click 2 times to sell any item and they don't stack and all those things. We know what happened. These teams moved on to Squadron 42 stuff. We saw the same team that discussed this talk about adding a move all button on our inventories. They also talked about how difficult that would be. Okay. Yes, this sounds clunky. It is clunky. It is, for me, this is not an implemented selling feature. Yes, I can sell, but I can't use it. It's so difficult. And that's the thing here. So again, this is a very good addition to the game, but trying to use it's impossible. So for me, I don't think CIG should be like, "Hey guys, we did it. Check out." This is a very much a kind of a not cool thing to do is make it seem like you've added selling to the game when you really haven't in many ways. So this would be something that I make an argument about from like This is them doing their marketing thing and trying to make the game look better than it is. And yeah, this is one of the worst features in the game. And in 2023, if it's not improved, I would be very disappointed.
Why can you make so much money in video games and not in real life? That's my mom asking, not me. There were also plenty of new places to visit and have adventures, including a variety of new derelict spacecraft, both floating in space and crashed down on the surface of Stanton's planets and moons. These derelicts not only add to the visual texture and history of the persistent universe, they provide numerous opportunities for mission and loot gameplay as more and more continue to be added throughout this last year and the next. And the same can also be said for derelict outposts and rivers, which began with a single estuary on Microtech and continued to develop throughout the year into a watershed release included in the upcoming Alpha 3.18. But for me, the highlight of RiverTech has been the ascendance of Will Hain to River Guy in the YouTube comments.
Yeah. I mean, like, the whole thing about rivers, they spent 2 seconds on derelict, like, puzzles, which were a very, very cool implementation. Really great job by Montreal. Highlights just how good of a studio Montreal is and how important they're going to be to Star Citizen's history. They literally just glance over that and go to River Tech, which is really important to call it River Tech, because that's all it was, is the tech to make rivers happen, but not any value to rivers. There's no fishing. There's no, land value that gets, better around rivers or anything like that. It's, just another thing that makes their world feel a little bit more alive. But, yeah, it was a technical implementation. But, man, they talk about it a lot because it looks good in screenshots and YouTube videos, I guess. And for some reason, actual gameplay doesn't. I don't understand. But obviously, this is going to continue to grow.
More hospitals were added to the persistent universe in 22, as important an aspect as any for those of us who spend most of our time waking up in medical beds rather than exploring the universe.
Hospitals was a great update,
It's not that I'm bad. It's just that everyone else is better, especially at racing in the first.
We're like not even mentioning the fact like hospitals was a big update, and it's because you get to choose where you spawn, right? Choosing where you spawn, choosing where you want your home to be, and all those things. Kind of a big deal, sort of like an MMO thing. It really was like a great addition gameplay element wise for me. And yeah, just one of those things that you might not really pay too much attention to, but it's an important, useful thing.
Of several community-initiated in-universe racetracks such as the Snake Pit, which began with the XGR racing community exploding in popularity this year, and an exciting initiative within development to canonize creations from the players into the persistent universe proper that will continue in the upcoming Alpha 3.18 and beyond.
Yeah, very cool.
And speaking of the community, much of what made Star Citizen's 2022 special was created by the community itself, including recurring events like Fight or Flight, the largest 2v2 PvP dogfighting tournament in the verse, the Hurston Hurt Locker, a battle royal event on Magda that features lots of mayhem and death where almost anything goes and precious few survive, and the classic Daymar Rally, a canonized staple that kicks off each year with a 500-kilometer race with multiple divisions and loads of ground vehicle shenanigans. And in addition to competitive events,
and as much time as they spent on player-made gameplay, there's no denying that the ability to do those types of things are some of what makes Star Citizen special, right? People might think I'm Mr. fucking negative all the time, but that shit's pretty cool.
The role-playing scene in Star Citizen continued to evolve and take notice within both the community and development teams as players utilized tools within the game to report the news, create exciting narratives, and simply bring an increased sense of immersion to life in the persistent universe. And out of universe, the Bar Citizen World Tour kicked off as CIG staff traveled to cities, states, provinces, and countries around the world to break bread and tell tales with players from all walks of life. It's been a terrific return to form and a chance for players and developers to connect that will continue throughout 2023, so be sure to keep an eye on the website and socials for details and let us know when events are happening in your area. Other notable events were the Battle of the Bricks, where the Star Citizen and EVE Online community teams came together for charity in a battle of building blocks, trivia, weird challenges, and whatever a wolffish is. It's terrible. Terrible is what wolffish is. And then this year's CitizenCon kicked off with the official Journey to 4.0 initiative, with presentations from developers on exciting new gameplay systems.
I mean, he called it exactly what it is, an initiative. By whom?
Like resource management, master modes, and investigations. The return of Chris Roberts to peel the curtain back on Squadron 42 developments that will benefit the persistent universe in the future, and we debuted the only constant, the spacecraft where ISC, SCL, and more will emanate from for the foreseeable future. And it still has a few tricks up its sleeve we hope to show you in 2023 and beyond.
Oh, cool.
But back in the verse, while the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo and Invictus continued to be highlights of the year, the biggest dynamic event in Star Citizen's history happened with the Siege of Orison, where the vicious Ninetales took control of the floating platforms surrounding Orison and waged a multi-stage battle against players in a first-of-its-kind mixture of Star Citizen's FPS gameplay systems and an impetus for numerous technological improvements to the entire game as a whole, including the server cap increase we talked about before.
Yep.
And this year's
Siege
Ship
was
Showdown
cool.
was a chance for community members to showcase their creativity in pushing their favorite ships and vehicles into contention to be named Best in Show at this year's IAE. And
Except
you can
the
see
vehicle
some of
that
that
actually
creativity here, and here, and here. Definitely a highlight of each and every year. And speaking about ships and vehicles, let's do a rundown of all the new ones that made their way flyable and drivable in 2022, including the Hull A, Hover Quad, Mule, Centurion, STV, Scorpius, Corsair, Cutter, and C8R Pisces.
That's it.
And that brings us to now. And
How many did they sell this year versus how many did they deliver? Most of those were like little ground vehicles. For me, the Corsair is a highlight. And the Centurion. I loved the listen, the Centurion might not be like the best thing that they've done, but the Centurion was like a really I thought it was cool because they took what they felt was like a need in the game and just made it happen, which was pretty cool. So,
and the impending release of Alpha 318, which will add a whole lot more to this 2022 of Star Citizen highlights, incling hole
really
stripping
no
salvage gameplay.
super large.
Yes, you and your trusty multi-tool.
You can add this as a 2022 highlight if it is now the 16th and it's not in the game yet and it's not playable by its players. We're halfway through and we're about to touch on what's coming in 318. Where's hull stripping?
Reclaimer or brand new Vulture have a new means to make your fortunes by finding and processing the remnants of space junk in the verse. This applies not only to destroyed player ships, but NPC hulks spawned throughout the Stanton system for you to discover and dismantle. The cargo refactor is here. The cargo refactor is here. Alpha 318 also brings with it the first iteration of the cargo refactor that will physicalize much of what we carry in our cargo holds and open up new avenues for cargo reclamation after disaster.
It's not here, and I'm going to argue that this is going to end up being a 2023 feature.
And potential piracy for the disaster causers of us out there.
Oh shit. Guys, that's the first time I think they've ever shown the snapping. Check it out.
For the disaster causers of us out there.
Very cool.
I'm looking at Tom.
That is very cool. I mean, as simple, it's a thing you're not going to notice 6 months from now. It's just going to be a thing you use. But man, is that welcomed, huh? Snapping I love it. That's good. It's just one of those, they showed it a month or so ago. I've never seen snapping.
There's also the new PTV racetrack in Orison that aims to provide a new recreational activity for those looking for the low-stakes challenge of buggy competitions or for the players that go out there and create emergent opportunities that I have no doubt none of us are prepared for.
Yes, I'm very
Can't
much
wait to
looking
see what you
forward to
do
this.
here. And the revitalization of Korea and the addition of additional sandbox prison activities, two components of an overall overhaul to the crime stat system that will be more lenient on what sends you to prison while providing new opportunities to remove crime stat before going and after escaping.
You know what all this tells me is that this year feels like really crappy so far, but if we do get a live patch, we get a wipe, and it culminates into this, like, you know, still suffering from the issue of like all these gameplay loops not being tied together, selling still a broken feature, not really usable, but it really culminates into a pretty special patch with some really cool stuff that is going to be pretty fun to play. And, you know, at the very least, kind of check out the new features and see Star Citizen progressing forward. Is it going to be where I want it to be? No. Is it going to be where most of us want it to be? Absolutely not. But it would be something worth checking out. And that's what I'm looking forward to. This thing in particular, Security Post Korea, the feel of the cargo refactor will be nice. But again, kind of needs to get tied into some sort of an economy and stuff like that. But yeah, I love all this.
6 new persistent universe racetracks based on community creations that will bring players to several of the lesser traveled areas of the stand system and allow them to test their mettle against others, with new gateway and timer functionality being added alongside them. New Orison missions that run on the surrounding platforms when Siege of Orison is resting from all the mayhem. New Sand Cave archetypes in the Daymar crash site introduce the brand new Mercury and 600i derelicts being added to the persistent universe. And 2 new exciting technological advancements this year with the implementation of the Gen 12 renderer and persistent entity streaming, which both convert the current persistent universe to new graphical and technological foundations that serve as the new basis for persistent universe's continued development, as well as set the stage for Star Citizen to realize its fullest potential in the years to come through server meshing, increased player and resource caps, and the addition of new star systems like Pyro, Nyx, and beyond.
I think that's
and
not too
going
much
on right
copium
now is
or anything. I think that he said exactly what it does. The only problem is he said this year and we still don't have it yet, so.
Luminalia, where players can log in each and every day to redeem a variety of in-game gifts, including holiday sweaters, undersuits, new paints for the 100i, Avenger, and more.
Oh, they're giving one away. Looks like there's going to be a little Pico.
Remember, it is 12 days, folks, and a sextant that Ben Curtis has really wanted to get in there for a while. I mean, it's cool. So, what did we learn this year? Well, I'd say a whole heck of a lot. But at the core of it all, to me, this year seemed to be about celebrating and renewing that connection between player and developer that's been at the heart of this project since it first launched in 2012. It's been said often and probably...
I feel more connected to the developers than I ever had, but it's just the ones who like come to the Twitch stream and stuff. I don't feel a connection between the community and anybody there as much anymore. I think we've become more disconnected. They barely use player questions anymore in SCL. I guess the Q&A features and the AMAs have been really good. I would say that that's been a really welcome addition. Patch Watch, really good. But as far as the video content, I think they've upped their game like big time, but at the same time made some changes that, caused us to be like a little bit more separated. So yeah, I don't know if I would agree with that entirely,
by folks
but
much
okay.
better than myself. But it bears repeating over and over and over again that none of this happens without your continued involvement, whether that's playing the game, discussing on Spectrum, reporting on the Issue Council, supporting through pledging, encouraging through Bar Citizens, creating and streaming through social media and contests and the like, or simply allowing us into your lives most weeks while we share the who we are and what we do with you through ISC and SCL and the like. It's kind of ridiculous that I get to stand here on a spaceship and represent the work of over 800 strong with you, from game directors to...
If only we did represent the work of the 800 strong, because we'd actually see some progress towards something, I would assume. But the best we got from the 800 strong was vaulting, mounting, EVA improvements, UI improvements, and some scanning improvements. The end of CitizenCon was what most of the people seem to, what they want to show. So unfortunately, we don't get to see what the 800 strong do as much, and I think that that's part of the disconnect between the community and the teams over there. Is there's not a whole lot of people that are working on the game that were coming each week to check out. And I'm not saying they should show those things. I'm just saying I think a lot of people are like, well, 800 people, what's happening? Well, hopefully we'll get to see what's happening in 2023 a little bit. I don't expect to see Squadron 42 released in 2023, but I do hope that we, maybe start to see a more marketing push for that game. This is what's, a little bit more that they can show and what's happening. And then maybe we would be a little bit less like, hey, there's no progress. What's going on? That kind of thing. So, but yeah. And then hopefully that game will release at some point, and then we'll have a newfound initiative to actually work on Star Citizen more consistently and with more people and really start hammering out the stuff that most people back for, I would say.
QA testers, from major features like salvage and cargo, down to little internal tools like asset validators. And I can hardly wait to see what 2023 has in store for us.
Same. I'm really excited for 2023.
This journey we're on can be exciting, rewarding, educational, consuming, and if we're being honest, a little frustrating at times. But there isn't another one remotely like it in the entire game industry, with so many dedicated to bringing this universe of possibility to life. So, for one last time in 2022, for Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.
We'll see you all here next year.
Enjoy your break. Enjoy your break. I can't wait for next year. For real. Thanks for another great year. Thanks for another frustrating year. Thanks for a year of hard work by the few that were working on Star Citizen. Thanks for the year of hard work for the people who are working on Squadron 42. And I am very much looking forward to next year. Again, it was a roller coaster year, agreed. I just don't think I don't think I'm going to be playing Star Citizen mega consistently next year. I don't think it's all going to come together next year, but I do feel what I expect from next year, and leave a comment in Twitch if you're here live, or leave a comment on YouTube if you're watching this. What are your expectations for next year? For me, my expectations for next year are more 3.15 like patches. So 3.15 was a patch that brought looting, a patch that brought medical, and a patch that brought just loot containers in general, right? That was a patch that brought three, I think, like very important game features. Again, not all connected, not really put together super well. We don't have that move all button just yet, but something to build upon. We didn't get a whole lot to build upon this year. Not until 3.18 at least, because you get the cargo refactor. That's a huge thing to build upon. You get PES, huge thing to build upon, right? So salvage, another thing to improve as well. Selling needs to get built upon, right? We need more on that. And I think we're going to get more tier 0, tier 1 looking features that are going to be features that we want to see improve and that we can kind of see the future of the game. I think the end of last year, 2021, where like the 315-ish patch was, we got to really get a sense of that. And this year didn't feel as much like that. So, no, not floodgates. No, it's going to be a lot of this frustration next year, I think. But it's going to be a lot of things where you can kind of, all right, I see where this is going. That's what I hope. I don't have really high expectations. Again, I don't think I'm going to be playing every day, day in and day out. But that's what I hope to see. And that was my disappointment from this year, is I thought, what they ended 2021 with, I thought we were coming into 2022 and not necessarily build upon the looting as much and all those things, but continue to add features that you can kind of see where this is going. At the end of this year, it's a very similar situation, right? Where they're adding a lot of features that you can see where this is going. And you kind of personally like the direction it's going in. So with that said, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday and all those things, and get ready for the drought. If we don't get 318 in soon, the drought is incoming, and it's going to be a rough couple months here until March of next year, I think. So thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Follow on Twitch if you're here. And here's to 2023.